Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and as you know, who's on the ride with us is Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How you guys doing tonight?
Very good. How are you?
All right, doing good. So, we have week 3 in the books. We're going to run through those games. A lot of good games out there. I guess you'd say the first game that was presented on Friday Night Lights was definitely a good one. There's a few other ones out there that are good. There are some teams that, when you look at the standings, you wouldn't expect them to be where they're at. And we're going to run through all of that. In the middle segment, we're coming down to the final week in the PCFL and going to go into the college playoffs. We have a new coach. So we're going to give him his props and give him a nice introduction into the league. And then we're going to wrap it up with the week 4 games predictions with Rich Sporting Books. So if you guys are ready, we're going to get this thing kicked off. I did miss last week's Player of the Week. I think I forgot it. I'm not mistaken. But this week, Player of the Week is Mac Jones from where? The New York Jets, because what do? The Jets do what they do, and they're the first game off this week as they went to Foxborough to go play the Patriots, and Mox is having a rough outing as New England fell 49-17. We're going to start this one off this week with Dean.
Yeah, I think the Patriots are one of the teams that are going to be competing for that much-coveted berth in the Sacco Bowl. Yeah, this game was not close at all. I mean, that's 49 points. That's 7 touchdowns to apparently 2 touchdowns and a field goal. This was brutal. Over 500 yards of offense for the Jets. 60% on third down, and 35 minutes time of possession. And as you noted, it made Mac Jones the Player of the Week. So that's certainly not a way to have fun in this game, to lose games like that.
Yeah. Mitch.
Yeah, I just, after playing the Jets the previous week and not having a great game, I just appreciate Mox coming back this week and playing so poorly that it made me not feel as bad. So thank you, Mox, for that.
I'm sure Mox is saying, I didn't do it as a favor to you. So hang in there, Mox. Don't give up because, again, there's teams that have made a good showing coming back after a defeat like that. So next game up, we have Indianapolis taking on Jacksonville. Very good game, very close game as Indy took this one 20-14. Mitch.
Yeah, solid victory for Indianapolis. I know that puts them down, I think, 3-0 for the season. So I know that Coach Hoover is excited about that. I was really impressed with their strategy to end the game to run out the clock. They decided that their 4-minute offense was let's pass every down and call timeouts, even though they only had a 6-point lead. But hey, it worked. The strategy worked for him. That's a riverboat gambler strategy there. So nice way to go there, Tim.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, I think when we look at a game like this, it was fairly close. I don't know if this result says more about Indianapolis or more about Jacksonville, and I guess that question can be answered in the coming weeks. But this is a fairly close game, and the home team, Indianapolis, did come out with a win. So they are 3-0, and maybe this is a team that can challenge the Jets for the division.
All right. Next one up definitely was a good game, a good battle going back and forth as we had the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Houston Oilers. And Houston came up 1 touchdown short from tying it as Pittsburgh took this one 21-14. Dean.
Yeah, now you'll have to revise that song you were singing that last week, and you said that the last line was Houston Oilers 1-1.
Yeah.
Revise it and say Houston Oilers 1-2.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, this game seemed like at the first half of the game, it seemed like neither team wanted to score. There wasn't a whole lot of offense, and they both ended up more than 300 yards of total offense at the end, but still not a whole lot of scoring. 35 points total for both teams. Not one team scoring 35 points to something to win. It's 35 points for both teams combined. So this is really still not a whole lot of scoring. And I don't know that the Pittsburgh has been exactly impressive on offense. I mean, they're winning games, but, Houston is in what? Has Houston been under 20 points in all three games now?
Yeah, yes.
That's so. So a tough start for Houston, no doubt.
Yeah.
Coach, you're up. What you got?
Well, I'm trying to figure out, gosh, am I just this bad at offense, or is the fact that I've played Pittsburgh twice and the Jets in my first three games, is that they're just really good on defense? I don't know. Probably a combo of both. I just know I got to get some things figured out if I'm going to, be a true contender this year on the offensive side of the ball. I feel pretty good about my defense overall, but man, my offense is it's not clicking the way I would expect it to be. So I got to get with my coordinators and figure out what the heck's going on.
All right.
Well, given what my offense has been doing this season, I'm not surprised that you haven't come to me asking for coaching advice on how to play offense more effectively.
Well, with all your play designs, I've been trying to use your plays, and apparently, maybe I can't score with your plays either.
Sometimes do, but you and I don't.
Wow.
They certainly use them and do well with them, but apparently Houston and Atlanta use them. No, not so good.
I don't know.
All right, moving on. Next game up, we have L.A. hosting Vegas. And I guess, L.A. L.A. went on a rampage after that loss to Seattle last week as they took that one 34-7. Mitch.
Well, I guess Steve is tanking again. Now he's won 34-7. It looks like he's trying to tank it again. But this is just a complete beat down, defensively by the Chargers. I think that's what's most impressive to me. I know that offensively, I know Caleb Williams had a horrible game in his first career start last week. This week was much more efficient. But that defense, my goodness gracious, holding Las Vegas to basically 200 yards. That was a beatdown.
Yep. Dean.
Yeah, he must have dusted off that defensive game plan from the 2041 Super Bowl. I mean, this defense was really good that he played against Las Vegas. And I'm not sure what Las Vegas used for offense, but it certainly didn't. Look at the difference in yardage, 461 to 201. And let's see, not seeing a whole lot of. There were only 2 sacks, so there's not a lot of sacks, but still this was very effective defensively. Held them to 57 yards rushing and 158 yards passing for a total net yards of 201. It's highly unlikely any of our teams are going to win a game with just 201 yards of offense in 24 minutes and 28 seconds.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Las Vegas, Dean, is that apparently, they decided to use the game plans that we had been using these first 3 weeks, Dean, and I guess he used the same one and same results.
Well, those may not be the game plans to copy then.
Next up, next up we have Green Bay hosting Denver. Um, and Denver, I think they're getting their stuff together as they took this one 28-17 over the Packers. Dean.
Well, I said that the Packers are going to do some things, and yeah, they did some things, and they didn't do enough of them well enough, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And Denver was pretty solid all around. They ran the ball for 165 yards. After they ran about 250 yards against me the previous week, and passed for almost 200, and it was pretty balanced offense and some pretty decent defense against Green Bay, and that gave them a pretty respectable 28-17 win.
All right, Mitch.
Well, you know what the difference in this game is, don't you?
What?
It's the fact that Dwayne Haskins got knocked out of the game. Dwayne Haskins for Green Bay was 13 of 18, 116 yards and a touchdown. Malik Willis was only 18 of 33 for 128 and an interception. So, with all those lost fumbles that Denver had, if Haskins would have played the game, maybe Green Bay wins this thing. Who knows? But they didn't, and he didn't, and there you go.
All right. Next up, we have the New York Giants taking on the Washington Redskins. Another good game. Definitely New York wanted to put their best foot forward after losing the previous week to Philly, as they took this one 24-17. Mitch.
Yeah, early on in this game, Barkley was really having some big runs, particularly up the middle. Kind of got slowed down, middle of the game, but was able to, kind of get a few things there late to help edge out Washington. But big win for the Giants, as you said, losing to their division rival the week before.
Yep. Dean.
Yeah, the Giants came back and won this game after struggling the last couple of seasons against Washington. Daniel Jones, the quarterback, played fairly respectably completing 18-27, and he didn't throw any touchdown passes, but he avoided throwing any interceptions. The running backs for the Giants ran for 3 touchdowns, and that's how they scored most of their points. So, this is a good win for the Giants, and I think the Giants may, be competing for this division. Philadelphia will do so as well, and maybe we can't just assume that Washington will win the division again this season.
Right. Next game up, we have Minnesota hosting Chicago. Now, my question to you guys is, are the alarm bells going off in Chicago? They're currently, I don't think I've ever seen them with this record before, but Minnesota actually hosted them and took this one 19-13, and Chicago is now sitting at 1-2. Dean, what's going on out there?
I believe Chicago was 1-2 one of the recent seasons, and I think 4 weeks later they were 5-2. So I wouldn't assume that we're going to see Chicago at something like 2-4 or 2-5. May not be 5-2, but I think they'll probably still have a winning record this season. Minnesota just played very well. I mean, I still think Minnesota was probably the best team through most of the season, and they played a tough game against Chicago and showed that in this game.
All right, Mitch.
Yeah, I don't think there's alarm bells going off in Chicago right now. I mean, when they look at their upcoming schedule, they've got 6 games the rest of the way between Seattle, Green Bay, New England, and Atlanta. So they're not worried. They're not worried. But
yeah, trying to needle in there a little bit. Okay.
I just play it. I'm just getting the condensation out here early. No, yeah. I mean, Minnesota's tough. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, that shouldn't be a shocker. Minnesota's tough. They've been tough for a long time, and Chicago's got some real competition now in that division that's going to push them. So I expect Chicago will use that as motivation here this season.
All right.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Chicago has some AFC teams that they're going to beat up on the schedule as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so no panic out there.
Nah.
All right. Next game up, we have Philadelphia hosting San Francisco. Now, my question, here's question number 2. San Francisco has yet to get a victory, as Philly took this one 20-7. Should they be panicking in the Bay Area? We're going to start this one off with Dean.
Yeah, it might be time to do a little panicking here. And when you look at the stats, Burrow had 50% completions in passing. That's not quite what you expect from him. And, well, J.J. McCarthy did the same thing. He's a rookie. And, as James was saying, he still doesn't quite think his offense is quite together yet. But, they play well enough to win this game. And the defense for the Eagles looked really good. So, yeah, it might be time to start on the part of the 49ers coaching staff, start asking questions, what are we doing here? What are we going to do about it?
All right. Mitch, what do you got?
Panic mode. Maybe a little bit more concern for them, obviously, than for Chicago, being they haven't got a win yet. But similar to Chicago here, right? San Francisco's played Chicago, Minnesota, Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia typically has not been a team that folks would get too shaken in their boots about, but they are leading the league in scoring defense this year and have been playing very, very tough. But then you look at the rest of the year for San Francisco, they have 7 games left on the schedule with Seattle, Green Bay, Jacksonville, Las Vegas, Atlanta. So some teams that are also maybe typically seen as struggle teams are out there. So some of those teams might be the year for them to overtake San Francisco, but we shall see.
Okay. Let's see here. Last game up that we have, which was basically our first game on the Friday Night Lights. I think, Mitch, you'd probably say that was a pretty good attendance out there this past weekend. But the first game that we had was Atlanta hosting Seattle. And I don't know, Mitch, I will present this question to you. Usually when these two teams play, it's usually something interesting as they're evenly matched teams, I guess you could say. But this time, Seattle got the best of Atlanta by the score of 24-20. Mitch.
Yeah. Well, in typical Seattle-Atlanta fashion, it was kind of, grudge match until the last 2 minutes of the game, and then we just all decided to start scoring touchdowns.
This is true.
You have a touchdown. You get a touchdown. You get a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's like Oprah comes in to sing at the 2-minute warning or something.
Yes.
But
it always comes down to the end.
Yeah, so, no, it was a fun game, definitely a good one for getting the Friday Night Lights kicked off. I think we had roughly half the coaches at least, in on it this week. So we started off with a good one for sure. It was fun to watch.
All right. Dean, what you got, Coach?
Yeah, not a whole lot to say about this. It was a close game. My team played a little bit better, but still didn't win. The offense just still didn't do very well.
Yeah, I will say that Seattle's defense definitely played a bend but don't break. If you look at the time of possession, Atlanta dominated by 36 minutes, 36-30, and Seattle had it for 23 minutes, 30 seconds. The yards was pretty much evenly matched. Let's see. Rushing was 131 for Seattle, 121 for Atlanta. Passing was 239 for Seattle, 240 for Atlanta. So the stats definitely looked pretty much, very close to each other. Time possession, they beat us, but again, Seattle had that bend but don't break defense, and I think that's what You know
But you missed the key difference, though.
what?
My team ran 3.8 yards per carry. Your running game, you ran fewer times. You ran 16 times for an average of 8.2 yards.
Yes.
That's mostly because Harris ran 12 times for 122 yards. That was probably a difference maker.
Yeah.
And, you played bend it, don't break defense, and the purpose of the offense should be to break your defense, and my offense didn't do that.
Yeah. Would you agree with that, Mitch?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
All right. All right, so we wrapped up our Week 3 games in the PNFL. We're going to pivot on over to the PCFL as we are going into our final week of games. The past week, let's look at the games from Week 11. You had Clemson defeating Florida 42-27, Georgia beating Oregon 38-17. Arkansas beating Tennessee 31-20. Florida State beating Penn State 45-29. Texas beating LSU 42-14. Ohio State beating UCLA 42-24. Oklahoma beating Michigan 28-19. Washington beating Notre Dame 35-28. And Colorado beating USC 33-21. In the power rankings, you have Texas currently sitting at number 1, Colorado number 2, tied with Clemson. Washington is sitting at number 4, Florida State sitting at 5, LSU at 6, Ohio State at 7, and you have UCLA in Florida sitting at 8. On the bubble, you have Tennessee at number 10, Arkansas and Georgia sitting at 11, coming down to the final week. One other thing of note is that we do have a new coach that happened to pick up the Oregon Ducks, and I think we'll have I'll have Dean tell us a little bit more about that. So we're going to pass it on over to Dean.
Yeah, we have a new coach. His name is Mitchell Luttrell, and he appears to be, judging by his username, he appears to be a Jets fan in real life, but asked to take over as coach of the Oregon Ducks. So he is taking over, and then he's getting things set up and reading the rules. And I'm not sure if he'll be up to speed enough to submit a PPP for this weekend. He's playing Texas this weekend. Now, as for what's going on in the PCFL in general, we really have PCFL. We kind of have two things going on. We have some of the teams that are likely in postseason will be playing an 18 playoff that will start after this coming week. We play week 12 games this coming week, and it'll be the last regular season game. And for about half of the league, or certainly several teams that pretty much know we're not making postseason, we're transitioning to looking at the offseason, and the main event during offseason will be recruiting. I have sent out a spreadsheet with the the ratings for the recruits that will be available, and there'll be more information coming very soon about that. And so at least those of you that are probably not or know that you're not in the playoffs, you can start recruiting you can start looking at the list of recruits and looking at your team. Now, all the players that are 4 under years of the seniors, those players will graduate. Those are the ones primarily that you'll be replacing. You may have a few other players that you may deem to be not as good as some of the recruits, and you may, a few players may be basically told to hit the transfer portal. That could happen. But at minimal, you'll generally want to recruit enough players to replace your seniors. And it varies. There are some teams that are losing 6 to 8 players, and there's a couple teams that are losing like 20 players. So one thing that those teams will want to keep in mind is you'll recruit 20 players overall, but it doesn't mean those players have to stay with your roster long term, because it may not be good roster management long term going forward to have 1 year where you're recruiting 20 and then another year where you're only recruiting 6 to 8. I remember when I managed this with my team in Steve's league, when he ran the XFPS, I try to generally have I tried to stagger it in such a way that I had generally the same number of seniors that graduated every year. That way I didn't have one of those years where you had to recruit 20 players to fill your roster, and it made having a consistent level of roster talent a little bit more uniform than have years where, you only recruit a few players, other years where you have to recruit a lot. And recruiting will be done kind of like bidding on free agents. It will all be done by points, and the recruits will be bidded for the human coach teams. The CPU teams will kind of have their recruiting done, and their players will be signed, and then we'll bid on players. That is the human coach teams. Right now, with the new coach that joined, we have 12 teams that have human coaches, only 6 CPU teams. So there is time for, if anyone knows someone who wants to join if anyone remaining in the PNFL that hasn't joined yet wants to join, I would urge you all to take a look at it and consider joining. And anyone who's maybe on the waiting list, if there is anyone else on the waiting list, in the PNFL waiting list, or anyone else who hasn't joined, they're welcome to join. I posted it in the Facebook group, and I hope maybe that we'll get some new people. And if anyone else knows anywhere else where you can post, please do that. And it'd be great if we somehow get, I'm not saying it will happen or it's realistic, but it'd be great if we had all 18 teams filled before we go into recruiting. So that's basically what we have going on. It looks like Texas, Colorado, Washington, and UCLA, I would think, are probably what look to be the leading contenders going into the playoffs, but 8 teams will make it, and it looks like it might include a couple of CPU teams that will make it into the playoffs. And generally, I think the teams that are going to make the playoffs and have been generally doing a better job of beating the CPU teams in the regular season are probably not going to lose to a CPU team in the playoffs. That would be my guess. So it'll be interesting what happens. It should be a pretty good playoff and a good competition between those teams to see who will make it to our championship game and play in it. And then once that is done, we will go into the off season and probably move pretty quickly to start recruiting.
Okay. All right, we're going to pivot on over to our final segment, which is our Week 4 games. I see that we have one pick'em game. The spreads on some of these games are pretty high, and there's some pretty interesting matchups and some teams that definitely need to do something to try to salvage their team. So we're going to jump right into this. The first game on the docket for Week 4, we have the Las Vegas Raiders hosting the New York Jets, and they are giving the Jets 14.5. We are going to start this one off with Dean.
Yeah, I think the key matchup here will be the Raiders offense against the Jets defense, and that's not going to be too pretty. Jets are going to win this game.
All right. Mitch.
Yeah. Jets.
All right. I'll concur. Jets. Next one, we have the Steelers hosting Jacksonville. They are giving Pittsburgh 10.5. Mitch.
So Jacksonville has a tough time scoring against a lot of teams, and Pittsburgh does a good job of not allowing teams to score. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
All right. Dean.
Yes, it's as easy as it was to pick the last one. I'm going to say Pittsburgh as well for the same reason.
All right. I will concur with you guys. I will go with Pittsburgh as well. Next game up, we have the LA Chargers hosting the Houston Oilers. And
sorry.
And the spread on this one is 4.5 for Houston. Dean.
Yeah, unfortunately, after this week, they're going to be the Houston Oilers 1-3 because Steve is tanking. You know what happens when the Chargers are tanking? They're winning, and they're going to win.
All right,
Be
Mitch.
close to win.
All right, Mitch.
I mean, how can you disagree? I mean, my goodness, I can't score any points. I mean, my goodness, what do you expect? But both teams 1 and 2. Yeah, we'll see. Definitely don't want to be 1 and 3, so I'm going to go with Houston.
All right. I'm going to go with Houston on this. He has to. I think Mitch is going to stop the bleeding this week. You got to stop the bleeding. If not, you're done. Next one up, you have New England hosting the Broncos. They are giving the Broncos 9.5. Mitch.
Denver Broncos. Denver. I'm taking Denver. Denver all the way.
All right, Dean.
I think he's found his new favorite AFC team other than his own.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I would agree.
The game is at New England, but Denver just seems to be too balanced and too strong. I think they'll win this game on the road, and I actually think they're going to cover that spread while they do it.
Yeah. Denver's defense was not a fluke last year. They've carried it over into this season. That's why I'm feeling very high on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of that's why they'll cover that spread.
All right. I'm going to go with the Broncos as well. I want to go for Mox, but the thing is, I haven't really seen anything on offense. I haven't really seen anything on defense. So,
you want to go for Mox, but this is business. This is business.
Yeah. Until Mox shows us, until Mox puts up a good thing on all three phases. I got to go with Denver this week. Next game up. This is our only pick'em. We have the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Dean.
Yeah, I think this is a pick'em because both teams are 3-0, and both teams have a chance here to prove that 3-0 is not a fluke. I think this will be a very close game, and the difference might be that Indianapolis plays at home, and I think the home team will win by at least 1 point.
All right, Mitch.
Well, here's what I predict. I predict that Indianapolis will have a 4-point lead with under 2 minutes to go, will get the ball and decide to throw passes into the teeth of that Philadelphia defensive backfield and get it picked off and run back for a pick six to lose the game. I'm going with Philadelphia.
Ooh. I'm going to split the baby here. I'm going to go with the Colts, and that's going to be my lead pipe lock this week. So, putting it down there. Next game up, we have Washington Redskins hosting the Atlanta Falcons. They are giving the Falcons 10.5. Mitch.
Oh, man. I really want King to get off the schneid here and win, but I don't know. I think Washington will pull it out.
All right. Dean.
Well, since we're talking about the other team that doesn't know how to score points going against a team that is very good at not allowing teams to score points, this is going to be a tough game. We just have to hope that it's close and hope for a little luck in our favor.
All right. I don't think the spread's going to be that wide, but I got to go at Washington this week. Sorry. Got to go with the Redskins. This is business. Next up, we have Green Bay hosting Mitch's Minnesota Vikings. They're giving the Vikings 13.5. Dean.
Well, this is always a rivalry game between Barney and Shuggy. And, the Packers will do some things, and they'll try some things. And, they'll try some new plays, and that will be exciting, and that will be interesting. But, the Vikings are just really good, and they're very competitive. And this is going to be my lead pipe lock of the game. Minnesota is going to win this game.
All right.
Put a lead pipe lock in that.
Mitch.
Minnesota, Minnesota, Minnesota number one.
Okay. That tells you all you need to know.
So,
yeah.
Minnesota's going to win this game. We'll, Minnesota.
All right. Give me the other pom-pom. I'll take Minnesota as well. So, I'll take them as well. Moving on to our final two games, we have The New York Giants hosting the Cardinals. They're giving the Cardinals 8.5. Mitch, what do you got?
Oh man, I think Chicago gets back on track this week. I'm going with the Bears. I mean the Cards. The Cards.
All right. Dean.
Well, one of the teams that's been very good in surprising people and beating the Cardinals has been the Giants. And I think after the big win against Washington, the Giants are not going to have a letdown week. And I think we're going to see Chicago Cardinals 1-3. The Giants are going to pull off an upset at home.
All right. I got to agree with you. I think the Giants are going to pull it off. I think Sean's going to surprise some people. So I'm going to go with the Giants this week. Last game for week 4, we have the San Francisco 49ers hosting the Seattle Seahawks, and they are giving the 49ers 4.5. Dean.
Yeah, I think to what degree that Charlie is going to do some panicking, he's also going to make some changes, and it is a home game, and it's only, they're only favored by 4.5, and I think the Seahawks will play well in this game, but will fall a little bit short in San Francisco. I think the home team 49ers win a close game.
All right. Mitch.
Well, this is time for my lead pipe of the week. Go ahead. Rates are dropping, so get that second mortgage. Put your money down. I'm going with Seattle this week.
Ooh, a lot of pressure there. Well, we're feeling pretty good at this time. So we're going to keep doing what we're doing right now.
At the time of our recording on Monday night.
Yeah, the time of our recording on Monday night, we're feeling pretty good. We're going to keep doing what we're doing right now and prepping and, kind of mixing things up and trying to pull off a victory against Charlie. So to keep this train going in a positive direction. So, it's winning cures everything. So it makes you feel good about yourself. So we're hoping to keep that rolling. So, all right.
Yeah, I heard, Mark, that you were so excited about this win last week that you tried doing a backflip and you cracked your wrist. Is that true?
No, actually, I cracked my wrist doing dad things, helping out my daughter and moving a car and trying to get off one of the tow dollies. And when I got off the tow dolly, pushed it and lost my balance. And I figured, you know what? It's a Sunday. I don't have anything else better to do. Could be watching the game, but screw it. And, broke my wrist. So we'll probably need surgery to get it back in order. So, fun times, life of a dad. So, anyway. So we're going to come to wrap this show up. Got some good games coming up this week in both the PNFL and in the PCFL. So hopefully you guys can tune in for that. Maybe I haven't talked to the guys about this yet, but maybe next week's show we can talk a little bit about the newest game that's coming out, Maximum Football. I know Mitch had posted something on the forum about it. Definitely want to talk about that a little bit. I've been following this guy for years when it first came out, and his different iterations of it. And it looks like the one that's getting ready to come out in November looks pretty good. So we'll talk about that a little bit and get the guy's opinion on that. So as we go around the table one last time, any final words you have for us, Dean?
No, not a whole lot. Just good luck to everyone in their games this weekend.
All right. Mitch, any final words before you take us home?
Why do we have to have 2 Monday night football games on at the same time? And why in the world do they pick matchups that are awful? It's 34-3 at half in the one game. Just awful. But anyway, that being said, Friday Night Lights, much better than Monday Night Football. Everyone join in. We'll have some fun, have some laughs, and we'll make fun of Shuggy in his new plays. Anyway, only thing left to do now is let's get it.